Blog Talk Radio.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. I want to first thank you for being and spending one more hour on your busy weekend with me. Please do remember you can also get the show on the podcast. Or otherwise, for both this show and Politics Done Right on KPFT at Politics Done Right, the page on Facebook. Again, that is Politics Done Right page on Facebook. And, of course, we're all linked through Coffee Party USA. Coffee Party USA. I trust that many of you will consider joining the new incarnation of this group that will be doing quite a bit this year and going forward. How are you doing today? It's one of those weeks, economically powerful, economically desirable, but we are still on a war footing. And you know what I just realized? The polling is moving in favor of us engaging even more. Today we're not going to be talking war, but I have to get this out of the way. We're not talking war today. We're talking the economy. We're talking Obama's economy. But this war, I am obsessed with the topic because I fear, like every other empire in the world, we are on the verge of collapse. And I'm not talking about some collapse that we are all fearing or some collapse that is going to occur quickly and we're going to just see things go crazy and go awry. That's really not how a whole lot of collapses happen. It's just that slow grind, that slow deterioration of a society. And it is something that occurs many times slowly in such a manner that you don't quite see it happening, but it's occurring slowly, and by the time you realize it has occurred, it is way too late. And that's what I see in our country right now. I mean, it's not for that 2% of folk out there that's doing just fine, or the 10% that is doing okay but think they're doing better than they really are, or the 25% that thinks everything is okay and, just maybe if I work a little bit harder, it'll be all okay. And the next 25% that thinks, well, but there's nothing I can do about it, but things are basically all right. And then the 47% that says, I am just trying to tread water. It's going to be treading water for progressively up the economic and class ladder based on the past that we're currently on. So, folks, before I get into the economic subject of Obama's economy and Obama touting the economy, I want to warn you, whether you agree with my personal stance on the wrongness of our war, our new war policy, the wrongness of the desire for war, the wrongness of convincing our fellow Americans that ISIS creates an existential danger to the United States, something that we must go to war for and spend monies that really are best spent in our security at home. Just a word of caution. Keep your eyes wide open, because we are on a path to the continued destruction of the middle class as war profiteers suck the blood out of us all. By blood in this case, or tax dollars, or treasure, our everything. It's no joke. It is not an exaggeration. Many may disagree, but the numbers simply don't lie. Well, Obama had a great economic week. The numbers on Obamacare are coming in, and it seems to be firing on all cylinders. The president gave a great speech at Northwestern University where he factually enumerated his accomplishments and also what else he wanted done. Then on Friday, the jobs report beat expectations. And of course, we had the corrections to the previous job reports as well. Going into the 2014 elections, it is important that Americans know the real deal, the real state of our country. One wonders sometimes why it takes the president such a long time to refute the misinformation industry. Note what I called it, the misinformation industry. It could also be called a corrupted plutocracy. But then if there's a plutocracy that's not corrupted, I am not really sure. But anyway, he should by now realize that art of repeating lies work. The only thing to mitigate its over repeatedly. It is not easy, but it is necessary. What are your thoughts, folks? This is a call-in show. Please give me a call at 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. You can also send me tweets, hashtag politics done right. Again, the hashtag for the show, politics done right. Do remember, you can go and leave messages as well for the show at the Facebook page, Politics Done Right. Just put it in your search box, Politics Done Right, and you should have no problem pulling up the blog post that I'm going to read today. The blog post for today was titled, or is titled, President Obama defends his economic record, challenges GOP's trickle-down economics. And I'm going to play what I did. And it took me a long time because, sometimes the president can get long-winded and pauses a lot and so forth. And what I like to do with my blog posts when it comes to videos is, first of all, I cherish the reader's time. And, why come to a blog post from somebody else if they're not making information easier for you to get? I figured that's the least as a blogger for me to do for all those who have given me the honor of reading the blog. So, as I've done with a whole lot of different videos, I go ahead and try to condense the video to the essence. Of course, you can always, this is the internet now. You can find videos for anything, anywhere. Now, what bloggers should be doing for their audience is making good information for them, accessible, easier to digest, and quicker to read. People are busy, and we try to provide that service. So what I did with the video is I took that whole hour video or so, and I think I got it down to 12 minutes, and I want to play it because the president was solid in this particular defense of his economic policies. But before I go forward, let me read that particular blog. President Obama gave a compelling economic speech at Northwestern University where he highlighted his economic accomplishments. He also used the speech to highlight economic policies still lacking. The president then challenged Republicans to enter into a fact-based debate about America's economic future. The speech was comprehensive in its breadth and assertive in tone. President Obama's economic and social policies have been criticized on false premises, lies, and misinformation ad nauseum, with no substantive pushback at the beginning of his presidency. The traditional media has, at best, been derelict and, at worst, complicit in distorting America's economic reality. The Democratic Party in general has done a poor job in highlighting successes. Instead, getting ahead of the Republican and traditional media affected negative polls, they mostly ran from substantive engagement that would have maligned or would have mitigated negative polls. President Obama has lacked the consistency of informing in a full-throated manner the reason for his policies. To be non-confrontational, he refused to call out the fantasy that is Republican economic policies. This speech put it all together. He touted his economic policies, which have been successful thus far. He acknowledged that while successful, the unbalanced nature of the recovery still needs much attention. Finally, he slammed Republicans for not engaging in a fact-based economic debate and for their continuous worship of trickle-down economics. Going forward, he laid out goals to improve the successes. Include the following: new investments in the energy and technologies that make America a magnet for good middle-class jobs, new investments in education that will make our workforce more skilled and competitive, new reforms to health care that will cut costs for families and businesses, new savings in our federal budget that get our fiscal house in order for future generations, new rules for financial system to protect consumers and prevent the kind of crises we endured from happening again. This speech is way overdue to have been heard throughout President Obama's presidency. Putting it together as he did in this speech is most effective. Fact-based information is lacking from the discourse, and I want to play this for you. So here it goes.
Here are the facts. Nature of the reality. Here are the facts. When I took office, businesses were laying off 800,000 Americans. Today, our businesses are hiring 200,000. The unemployment rate has come down from a high of 10% in 2009 to 6.1%. Over the past 4.5 years, our businesses have created 10 million new jobs. This is the longest uninterrupted stretch of private sector job creation in our history. Think about that. And you don't have to plot it because I'm going to be giving you a lot of good statistics. Right now, there are more job openings than at any time since 2001. The United States has put more people back to work than Europe, Japan, and every other advanced economy combined. Progress has been hard, but it has been steady and it has been real. The direct result of the American people's drive, their determination, their result. The result of sound decisions made by my administration. So it is indisputable that our economy is stronger today than it was. By every economic measure, we are better off now than we were when I took office. At the same time, it's also indisputable that millions of Americans don't yet feel enough of the benefits of a growing economy, where it matters most. That's in their own. And these truths aren't incompatible. Broader, the aggregate has come a long way. We can see that homes in our communities are selling for more money, and the stock market doubled. Maybe the neighbors have new health care, or car fresh off an American assembly line. These are all good things. But the stress that families feel, that's real too. It's still harder than it should be to pay the bills. Put away some money. When you're working your tail off, it's harder than it should be to get ahead. Our economy cannot truly succeed if we're stuck in a winner-take-all system where a shrinking few do very well while a growing many are struggling to get by. Historically, our economic greatness rests on a simple thing. The middle class thrives, and when people can work hard to get into the middle class, then America thrives. This is going to be the central challenge of our time. We have to make our economy work for every working American. I said we would rebuild our economy on a new foundation for growth and prosperity. And with dedicated, persistent effort, we've actually been laying the cornerstone for this foundation every single day since. Right off the bat, as soon as I came into office, we upped our investments in American energy to reduce our dependence on foreign oil and strengthen our economy. And today, the number one oil and gas producer in the world is no longer Russia or Saudi Arabia, it's America. At the same time, we've helped put tens of thousands of people to work manufacturing wind turbines and installing solar panels on homes and businesses. We have tripled the electricity that we've harnessed from the wind. We have increased tenfold what we generate from the sun. We have brought enough clean energy online to power every home and business in Illinois and Wisconsin 24/7. And that's the kind of progress that we can be proud of, and in part accounts for the progress we have also made in reducing carbon emissions that cause climate change. Our 100-year supply of natural gas is a big factor in drawing jobs back to our shores. Many are in manufacturing, which produce the quintessential middle-class job. During the last decade, it was widely accepted that American manufacturing was in irreversible decline. Just 6 years ago, its crown jewel, the American auto industry, could not survive on its own. We helped our automakers restructure and retool. Today, they're building and selling new cars at the fastest rate in 8 years. We invested in new plants, new technologies, high-tech hubs like the Digital Manufacturing and Design Institute that Northwestern partnered with in Chicago. Today, American manufacturing has added more than 700,000 new jobs. It's growing almost twice as fast as the rest of the economy. And more than half of all manufacturing executives have said they are actively looking at bringing jobs back from China. For many of the middle class, the last decade was defined by outsourcing good jobs overseas. If we keep up these investments, we can define this decade by what's known as insourcing, with new factories now opening their doors here in America at the fastest pace in decades. And in the process, we've also worked to grow American exports and open new markets, knock down barriers to trade. Because businesses that export tend to have better paying jobs. So today, our businesses sell more goods and services made in America to the rest of the world than ever before. Public education in America is actually improving. Last year, our elementary and middle school students had the highest math and reading scores on record. The dropout rates for Latinos and African Americans are down. The high school graduation rate is up. It's now above 80% for the. We've invested in more than 700 community colleges, which are so often gateways to the middle class. And we're connecting them with employers to train high school graduates for good jobs in fast-growing fields like high-tech manufacturing, energy, and IT, and science. Sent more veterans to college on the post-9/11 GI Bill, including several veterans here at Northwestern. And a few of them are in this hall today, and we thank them for their service. For decades, one of the things that made it harder for families to make ends meet and businesses to grow was the high cost of health care. In the decade before the Affordable Care Act, a.k.a. Obamacare, double-digit premium increases were common. CEOs called them one of the biggest challenges to their competitiveness. And if your employer didn't drop your coverage to avoid these costs, they might pass them on to you and take them out of your wage. When we passed the Affordable Care Act, the critics were saying, what are you doing about cost? Well, let me tell you what we've done about cost. If your family gets your health care through your employer, premiums are rising at a rate tied for the lowest on record. What this means for the economy is staggering. If we hadn't taken this on, and premiums had kept growing at the rate they did in the last decade, the average premium for family coverage today would be $1,800 higher than they are. Now, most people don't notice it, but that's $1,800 you don't have to pay out of your pocket or see vanish from your paycheck. That's like an $1,800 tax cut. That's not for folks who signed up for Obamacare. That's the consequences of some of the reforms that we've made. And because the insurance marketplaces we created encourage insurers to compete for your business, in many cities, they've announced that next year's premiums, well, something important is happening here. Next year's premiums are actually falling in some of these markets. One expert said this is defying the law of physics, but we're getting it done. Slowing the cost of health care, and we're covering more people at the same time. In just the last year, we reduced the share of uninsured Americans by 26%. That means 1 in 4 uninsured Americans, about 10 million people, have gained the financial security of health insurance in less than 1 year. And for young entrepreneurs, like many of you here today, the fact that you can compare and buy affordable plans in the marketplace frees you up to strike out on your own. Chase that new idea. And I hope will unleash new and services and products and enterprises all. So the job block that used to exist because you needed health insurance, you're free from that. You can go out and do something on your own and get affordable health. And meanwhile, partly because health care prices have been growing at the slowest rate in nearly 50 years, the growth in what health care costs the government is down also. I want everybody to listen carefully here, because when we were debating the Affordable Care Act, there was a lot of complaining about how we couldn't afford this. The independent, nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office recently reported that in 2020, Medicare and Medicaid will cost us $188 billion less than projected just 4 years ago. Here's what that means in layman's terms. Healthcare has long been the single biggest driver of America's future deficits, been the single biggest driver of our debt. Healthcare is now the single biggest factor driving down those deficits. This is a game changer for the fourth cornerstone of this new foundation, getting our fiscal house in order for the long run, so we can afford to make investments that grow the middle class. Between a growing economy, some prudent spending cuts, health care reform, and asking the wealthiest Americans to pay a little bit more on their taxes, over the past 5 years, we've cut our deficits by more than half. When I took office, the deficit was nearly 10% of our economy. Today, it's approaching 3%. In other words, we can shore up America's long-term finances without falling back into the mindless austerity or manufactured crises or trying to find excuses to slash benefits to seniors that dominated Washington budget debates for so long. And finally, we put in place financial reform to protect consumers and prevent a crisis on Wall Street from hammering Main Street ever again. We have new tools to prevent too big to fail. stopped taxpayer-funded bailouts. We made it illegal for big banks to gamble with your money. We established the first ever consumer watchdog to protect consumers from irresponsible lending, credit card practices. We secured billions of dollars in relief for consumers who get taken advantage of. For all the citizens that we still need to reach, what I want people to know is that there are really good things. Unemployment down, jobs up, manufacturing growing, deficits cut by more than half. High school graduations up, college enrollment up, energy production up, clean energy production up, financial system more stable, healthcare costs rising at a slower rate. Across the board, the trend line has moved in the right direction. That's because this new foundation is now in place. New investments in energy and technology to create new jobs and new industries. New investments in education that will make our workforce more skilled, and new reforms to healthcare that cut costs for families and businesses. New reforms to our federal budget that will promote our investments and a stronger economy. New rules for our financial system to protect consumers and the economy. You add it all up, and it's no surprise that for the first time in more than a decade, business leaders from around the world have said the world's most attractive place to invest, not India or China, it's the United States of America. That's because the financial sector is healthy, because manufacturing is healthy, because the housing market is healthier, because healthcare inflation is at a 50-year low, because our energy boom is at new highs. Because of all these things, our economy isn't just primed for steadier, more sustained growth. America is better poised to lead and succeed in the 21st century than any other nation on earth. I will not allow anyone to dismantle this foundation, because for the first time we can see real, tangible evidence of what the contours of the new economy will look like. The item I ticked off. Those are the facts. Not conjecture, not opinion, partisan rhetoric. So I've laid out what I know has happened over the 6 years of my presidency so far. I've laid out an agenda for what I think should happen to make us grow even better, grow even faster. A true opposition party should now have the courage to have their agenda, hopefully also grounded. When income inequality is high a rate as we've seen for decades, I find that a little hard to swallow. That really desperately fast that right now. Why? What are the facts? What is the empirical data that would justify that position? American economic greatness has never trickled down from the top. It grows from a rising, thriving middle class and opportunity for working people. That's what makes us different.
That was more than 100 cuts, if I recall, when I processed this stuff through Roxio. It was tedious, but it got a rather good speech that was, I think, around an hour or so, and you can actually go to whitehouse.gov and get the whole speech if you want to will through it. But I got that out there in, I think I processed it to 13 minutes of the things that needed to be said, and also a little bit of corroboration that I think was necessary. I mean, I could have probably gotten it down to 7 minutes, but I think a lot of other information needed to be corroborated. But as the man said, and as you know, we posted a whole lot of these in independent blogs. So what he's saying is not an invention. Now, there's one thing I take issue with, and that is with the financial system as far as how stable it is still, whether the adjustments that were made were enough. Many of us don't believe that it is enough. Many of us believe that more should be done. But again, the accomplishment was to make the system stronger. How much stronger it is, as far as these guys that could create another meltdown, I don't know. But every single thing the man ticked off was correct. Now I see 620. My good old friend Jack is on, and his hands up. I'll come to you next, Jack. Folks, the call-in show, number 646-929-2495. Again, the number is 646-929-2495. Please press the number 1 if you want to talk. I'll be more than happy to talk to you on whatever you want to talk about, or if you want to dispute some of what the president said, I'd love to hear that as well. But Jack, I think you're hot. Come on in, my friend.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I can't believe, that two-party system is going just plain nothing. I mean, we need a strong independent party. That's why I get out of it. The Democrats are acting pussy, and then the Republicans are acting obstructionists. So they can't even agree on financing the so-called war in I called it Obama, not Obama's, but Bush's war. It was actually Big Dick Cheney's war.
Right.
Because he and the two Pauls,
Paul
Wolfowitz
and Paul
and Bremer, yeah.
Right.
And I just can't believe all could have been prevented.
Yeah, I don't want, Jack. I don't want to, Jack. I don't want to go back and debate the war. I really want to concentrate on the policies and try to be informative with folks as far as whether the president's policies have worked. And I think he made a great enumeration that the policies that he put out there has worked. And I wanted to, I want
working,
to
but they're not working for the average Joe and Jane.
Let me be. You're correct about that, and the reason it's not working for Jack and Jane, a lot of times, I'm going to put it this way. And this is not a defense of the president. I think this is a statement of fact. I think it is. For a long time, what we stand for here at Coffee Party. We want election reform. We want Wall Street reform, and we also want money out of politics. Now, here's the reality: money
and religion too out of politics.
Okay,
because
sir, I'll add that.
Too much concentration on abortion and stuff like that. Texas has passed a law. Yeah, maybe
we should look at that. Maybe we should. I get you, Jack. But let me say this. Those are the tenets. But last night I did a piece on, or rather, I was watching Bill Maher, and lately I've had very strong issues. Yeah, I've had very strong issues with Bill Maher because he's becoming a bit too anti-Islam, and it's not that he's anti-Islam, but I think he is unfair in his critique on what's going on with a lot of the bad Islamists, if you will. So, but his items with regards to Americans and who they vote for is extraordinarily true. And last night after, it's something that we all know, but last night after listening to him and listening to putting it all together with four guys, I mean, let me see if I can get to Bill Maher's piece here real quickly, because this is really, really probative. They're four men. We complain about we can't get anything done and how bad these guys over there are. Okay, now we have four congressmen. I think one is, remember the guy, Vance McAllister. This is a guy who ran on family values and was caught messing around with the lady in his room. Then we had another one that was anti-abortion, but turned out that he wanted to, that he had girlfriends and wife force them into having abortions. Then we have the guy in New York, I don't quite recall his name, Michael Grimm, who has 20 indictments on him right now for quite a few things that he's done. And this is the same guy who once threatened to throw a reporter over the balcony in the Capitol. And of course, we also have what was the other? This guy in. But anyhow, this particular guy, it's just a how should I say this list of people that are genuinely bad for the country. Yet each of these men will be sent back based on the polls today. Each of these men will be sent back to Congress. Now we ask ourselves, what has Congress done this thus far? You said, Jack, that the economy, all these numbers are doing fine, but it's not trickling down. You're correct, it's not trickling down. But for it to trickle down, we need laws. Let me give an example. We need and we say this ad nauseum with regards to our infrastructure. It is crumbling. Get on any freeway today, outside of the big cities where there are no construction, and you can see our infrastructure falling apart. I do a lot of flying from conferences and that sort of thing. Take a look at our airports compared to airports in Shanghai or other places. It is outdated, and it's not even. It is not even. It almost seems like what we used to refer to as the third world type airports. Most of our airports today look like third world airports. You take a look at the bus terminals. You take a look at all our infrastructure. All these things need work. And when all those people go to work, the construction workers go to work, it doesn't only help that construction worker that gets that job. It helps that sandwich shop. It helps the grocery store. It helps everything to make that economy in that vicinity that much more active, that much more successful, producing more, circulation of money goes around, and the whole economy goes up. Who is stopping that? It's not the president that's stopping that. It's not the Democratic Party that is stopping that. At some time, we have to be frank. And you mentioned the obstructionists. Yes, they are. The Republican Party is being obstructionist in not allowing anything to happen, and it above and beyond what we could have been doing, as what the government could be doing to enhance the economy. As the president said, the pillars have been laid to make a vibrant economy, and I want to expand on that a bit because this is quite important. For anybody who's listened to Politics Done Right, they know there are two things I always talk about. I've always been obsessed with healthcare. I've always been obsessed with healthcare reform, and I've always been obsessed with the distribution of our income and wealth in this country because it was ill-gotten. As I've always preached about, these are all ill-gotten gains. Many folks earned it. Most of the wealthy in this country, or most of the wealth generated in this country, the wealth is ill-gotten, and I can break that down at any time. And I'll repeat, most of the wealth in this country is ill-gotten. It is based on that allows those that have not done much to get much. That is a fact. But anyway, on healthcare, how is that going to start mitigating those types of issues? The quick story is that as a small business person myself, before Obamacare, healthcare have always been covered, first of all. And the reason I like to characterize that is many think that most of us who are out there advocating for Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and all these other economic issues, somehow we're advocating for it because we want to sponge on it or sponge on some. No. We've always had health insurance. We've always had good economics within this household and within many of the other households that are fighting for this. But we understand one thing, that for an economy to remain vibrant, we have to ensure everybody has the access to do well. It's not good enough that I have mine. In fact, it's not even. I don't even know how people who think that way. I did it it's mine. I don't even know how those people think. Because seeing that you're doing well and looking across the street and seeing somebody with problems, I don't see how that doesn't have an effect on you. And that is the method. That is what we're preaching in these days. But going back to the issue at hand when I spoke about healthcare, as a small businessman, like I said, I was sort of lucky in that, yes, I could afford to get healthcare, but too many people I knew working for Exxon or working for NASA in this area or working for all these other organizations, they had great ideas that they wanted to go out and do something on their own. They wanted to form their own company. One even wanted to start a little pizza shop and couldn't. And the reason he couldn't is that he was a slave to the corporatocracy. Why was he a slave to the corporatocracy? He could not afford individual health insurance on his own as he tried to step out. He could not. He could afford the policy that the job sold him, but he couldn't afford it on his own. So that is one potential new avenue of economic success stifled by a system that does not have the right type of health care to ensure that one need not be a slave to a corporation. Now that Obamacare is there, first of all, in my personal case, my health care bill has more than cut in half. It's been more than cut in half if I take all the costs into consideration. That is what Obamacare did for me. But what's interesting is people may say, oh, well, again, look at that. You love Obamacare because you made a hell of a deal on Obamacare because your bills got cut in half. But here is the thing, folks. When I was paying $12,000, $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 or more for insurance a year, actually it's more than that. I think it's between $15,000 and $20,000 a year in healthcare costs. I never used those services. Never did. And as much as my wife had lupus, she has been stable for quite a while, and we have not been using that service. So we have been subsidizing many for years. So we're not mooshers, but we still realize, folks, if everybody must have access. Everybody must have access to success. If you don't have access, what is there? And that is the main issue with regards to his health care. Now, when it comes to the rest of the economy that we speak about, and I hope you realize I'm being sarcastic, in our great, and I'm coming back to you in a second, Jack, and folks, give me a call, slow call day today, 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. Now, one of the other things that's important for folks to understand is the following. Our tax system directly ensures that the wealthy stay wealthy and the average middle class Americans have to get lucky to make it into that class. Why do I say that? Think about this. The wealthy continue to get lower tax rates on capital gains. That's how they make their money. Capital gains, the appreciation of their stocks, continue to pay a lower rate than the citizen who makes the same amount of income through wages. So the guy who is sitting at his pool in a chair with a sipping his tea, who's with a laptop looking at the appreciation of his stock, while the guy, the engineer, the lawyer, the garbage man, the nurse who gets up every morning and goes to work, he pays a higher rate than that cat sitting or lying in his mansion watching the appreciation of his stock. Likewise, the folks who work in factories, building the iPods, the iPads, building all this equipment, while some CEO stands at the top looking down, doing nothing. Most of the times he knows nothing about engineering. Most of the times he knows nothing about sales. Most of the times he knows very little about anything other than how to try to maximize some money. In other words, he provides no value to society, yet he makes over 350 times the average person on the line. There is no way the average person on the line has any possibility of getting up to that position. These are things that can be changed with good economic policy. We have to stop thinking of capitalism as a religion and start using capitalism as what it should be used for, just a tool. A tool to garner capital for a particular entity or job to get done, nothing more, nothing less. But where government should be placed, let government in. Folks, the number 646-929-2495. Look, I can talk forever. I have a lot of policy things I can come up, but I much prefer hearing from you. Jack, I'll let you back in to see if you have anything else that you want to say.
Yeah, let's see. I think I said pretty much what I want to say.
Okay, that
student loans, and that's another thing that
actually that was a very important. Actually, I'm glad you
Warren,
mentioned that.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren. Okay, I was fortunate. I didn't have to get a nickel subsidy for college, and that was back in the 50s. $255 for 5 graduate courses, $17 an hour.
Wow.
For 15, 15 hours in graduate psychology.
Wow.
And that was back. I didn't have to pay it. I was the first in my family to get through college, and that's a big issue. I think my grandchildren are of college age. I think they're doing. She may go back, and I got great grandchildren who are 3 and 1 respectively, and thank God. I hope I'm not the only one. I do miss even your friend John from San Antonio.
Yeah,
he's down there. Yeah, I can. I'd like to be a friend on him on Facebook if I don't know the hell.
Yeah, I have John. I don't think John does a lot of Facebook, Jack, but I think John is a bit upset with politics done right because of the stance we're taking on with the stance myself taking on ISIS and it not being an existential threat. But like I tell John, I hope he comes back. Because
I have to disagree with you that ISIS is anything that's extremist, and I'm going to harp on extremists and fundamentalists. You go anywhere from what the Tea Party does to, you can liken the Tea Party, some of their policies, to ISIS, and also there's a feeling that the extreme right, they love Israel, and to be pro-Israel, in extent is to be extreme right. As to be pro-extreme right, but that's false. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir.
Yeah. Okay, they love. The thing is,
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
It's another thing. Israel,
right?
Hamas thing.
Yes,
so That's
Jack,
another issue.
Yeah, you're really bringing in a lot of issues, Jack. But anyhow, I want to take up your first issue because this is I was trying to make this show an economic show. But by the way, you're correct on a lot of folks. Look, disagreeing with Israel doesn't mean make one person anti-Israel. I support Israel. I support Palestine. I support the good people in Israel and the good people in Palestine. What I don't support is
I support Palestine too.
Right. What I do not
Palestine. I think even Netanyahu is considering the views of Arab nations like even Saudi Arabia.
Well, he has to.
It's another. And anti-Iran.
Right.
That's another thing. Foreign policy is dominating now.
Jack, I wanted to do an economic show, but I love foreign policy as well. And you're throwing me all over the place, Jack. You're throwing me to Palestine.
Yeah, I know.
You're throwing me to Iraq. You're throwing me to ISIS. But let me tell you, here's what I like. I mean, you disagree with me on ISIS, and that's fine. That is what it's all about. You can make your point. I can make my point. I have some points that I like to make on this particular issue. I mean, that's just being American. That's why I said I wish. I know John disagrees with that, but we talk about more than ISIS on here. We talk about economics and so forth. And I think for the most part, John and I and others agree quite very well on economic policy. So whether you disagree or not, I always like folks to give a call into the show. Now, that said, you're mentioning about the student loan. There's a very important thing that a lot of Americans don't know about student loan. And this I fault the government for specifically. Do you realize that that the government makes a ton of profits on the interest it charges student loans? I mean, it's ridiculous that our government makes all these profits on student loans, and the monies do not all go right back into trying to get kids educated or reduce the cost of education. It goes into deferring, and I think that is sad because, in effect, and Elizabeth Warren said it quite well last night. She was interviewed on Bill Maher last night, and she said that it is, I don't recall exactly how she put it, but in effect she was saying that we are in all the machinations that we do to attempt to keep taxes low for the wealthy, we make the average middle-class American pay. The average poor American pay. Somebody's going for a student loan because they cannot afford to actually pay that tuition, and they've made the pact to pay for their school over time. That's a pact. The last thing that we need is a government that says, like the big banks do, make a profit on your misery. And the big profit that the government is making right now on student loans is on call for. Elizabeth Warren is one of the senators that have wrote several blog posts about it, and with some videos that she did in I don't remember what committee that falls under, not the education committee and others, where she cooled this particular issue. If I tell you, I think America is ready for a real populist to run as president, and not just a populist, but a populist with a revolution behind them. And I tell you what best way to have a populist revolution by having a woman leading, a populist woman leading a task. It defies everything that this country has ever done. A patriarchal country based on a few, the elite, a few. Think about it. A woman coming from meager means with a revolution behind her. Of course, when we talk revolution, we're not talking crazy revolution, folks. We're talking about with a whole bunch of populist activists supporting her that forces the country to do what is best for everyone and not for a select few. Can you wait? Can't you not hope? I am hoping. I am hoping that an Elizabeth Warren or somebody like Elizabeth Warren, and I'll be blunt. I think it is time that we get somebody like her, and I'm qualifying her, in office, because I think she will provide the impetus that something that many others will want to follow. Well, we're coming to the close of the show. We were kind of meager on call, so I guess we'll be more effective on podcast this week around. So what I'm going to ask you, Jack, is give me a quick closer, and then I'm going to close this baby out. So come on in, Jack.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It was just me. That's the only. I was the only one that had their hand up. I thought maybe there.
You're the only one. No, we have more. We have more, but you're the only one that wanted to talk.
and also, I can remember I was on. What's her name? Thursday.
Janine Loudon on
Janine,
Lunch with Loudon.
I can't. I'm just bummed on it. I'm getting worse and worse on saying names. And we were talking about Kansas. Now that's a big thing. Now Kansas could make a difference in the election.
I get.
But I think in Iowa,
Jack,
you got a dumb Democrat that I think is going to be defeated by the hog butcher of I call her
that race is not called yet. But Jack, I got to go. Look, thank you for being on the show, and for those who decided to listen, thank you, sir. For those who decided to listen and not call in, come on, guys, give me a call and tell me whether you agree or disagree the next time around. Anyhow, I want to let you know that Coffee Party has other shows as well. We have Press 1 for Democracy with Dan Aronson on Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern. We have Lunch with Loudon on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. And Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Of course, you're here with me, Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies. Thank you very much for spending this time with me. I hope that you come back next week. I hope that next week you decide to say, I am going to call and I am going to either talk about some new subject I want to talk about, disagree with Egberto, or agree. Give me a call. But, folks, this has been Politics Done Right. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.